Okay, here's the next video. No man might buy or sell. So no man might buy or sell. That's in Revelation 13:17, I believe. On that particular verse, my question is this talking about a physical buying or selling of goods? As most people believe, I recently saw a post and it was speaking toward that they'd try to shut it down to where only certain people could buy or sell, uh, except the ones that would take the mark of the beast. And I wanted to take a look at this. Is is this literal, a buying and selling of food and supplies, or like anybody owns a business that sells products, is it going to stop them from being able to sell their products or anything like that? Or could it be this? Could it be, are they selling a different gospel? Are they selling a different announcement of the good news? Are they selling a different word instead of the word, the true word, the righteous word of Yahuwah? Are they selling a counterfeit word of the Father above? So here we go. Well, let's take a look at the slides, and I just want that y'all keep that in your mind as we go through these slides. And I want to take a look at several words here, and I believe we can get the gist of it. I'm already settled just by doing this study on what it is, but I would like to get y'all's feedback and see what you see, or if you see what I see, or do you see something different? So here we go. I'll start here reading. This is the second beast. There's two beasts in Revelation 13. There's the first beast, and this is talking about the second beast. So we'll read Revelation 13:11 through 18. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he make fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600 threescore and six. So we'll cover all these verses eventually through the study, but I want to take a first look at the two horns like a lamb. So that's here. This second beast says it's two horns like a lamb. So let's look at what I believe is the two horns of the lamb right now, and I'll make some comments on it. Here's who I believe it is. I believe it's Pope Francis, the White Pope, and I believe this Arturo Soros is your Jesuit Superior General. So he's considered the Black Pope. So looking at these guys without that knowledge, and looking at them, if they were dressed in regular clothing, they would just look like a couple of older gentlemen, possibly grandfathers, possibly even great grandfathers, someone that you might even want to visit with to you know ask them about their life and what's all happened in their life. But they look very innocent, right? So I mean, for the ones that know who the Pope and the Jesuit Superior General is, they know that they're not innocent. But what I'm saying, they they look like lambs. If the people that are in the world, when they look at these two guys, they're not looking at them as being um, evil. They're looking at them as just being. Um, they look like good men. That would be somebody that again, that you'd spend time with, maybe even have over for dinner. So these here are what I am seeing over the last 2 years, 2.5 years of the two horns like a lamb. So let's look at what horns mean. Horns, we got the Greek Strong's number 2768, charis. It's the hair of the head, a horn, literally or figuratively. So when we think of the beast, I mean, there's some people out there that think there's a literal horn sticking out of a person's head, and in most of your satanic images, you see horns on a character that looks, that they say is Satan or the devil. But anyway, but it also can be figurative. So if we think about the hair on the head, and you think about uh, Samson, what did he have? The hair of his head was his strength. So there was some awesome symbology going on in the story of Samson that everybody probably should go back and look at the allegorical or metaphorical sense of, or the parable of what it's actually trying to convey, instead of just being this story in the black and white that everybody, as kids growing up, we were taught this certain way. Then if we look at the Thayer definition, we basically got the here the symbol of strength. So that would be figuratively a symbol of strength and courage. So again, that would go back to the hair of the head. There's some other instances where it talks about women having long hair, which could be that woman's symbol of strength. And it's not literal hair. It's just talking about having good strength and courage for a woman. Luke 169, and this is Zechariah. He's kind of prophesying here about the Messiah. And it says, and hath raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. So even the Messiah was considered a horn of salvation. So that would be strength and courage. So definitely you look at what the Messiah did. He came here in strength and courage and walked 3.5 years on an earth that didn't accept him. And that takes a lot of strength and courage to do that. So he was a horn of salvation. Also, if you look here in Revelation 5:6, this is John writing, and I beheld, and lo, amid the throne and of the four beasts and amid the elders stood a lamb, as it had been slain. So that's the Messiah, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim sent forth into all the earth. So you can do some research on the 7 spirits of Elohim. I won't get into it, but each one of those, they're basically different traits that a person has, these 7 spirits that you can gain from Elohim that give you power and strength and courage. So you look at the same word in the Hebrew for horns. It's Strong's number 7161. It's keren, or Kroran, maybe. And here, I got it highlighted, figuratively power. And the Brown Drivers Briggs definition, again, I just highlighted here, strength, figuratively. So again, it goes back, it kind of agrees with the Greek understanding of what a horn is. And over here, it's power and strength and courage. 1 Samuel 2:1, and Hannah, which Hannah means favored, and Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in Yahuwah. Mine horn is exalted in Yahuwah. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. So mine horn was Hannah's strength, Hannah's power, Hannah's courage, and it was lifted up by Yahuwah. So again, we can have our own horns. We can be horns. Psalm 75:10, all the horns of the wicked also will I cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be exalted. So here's an example right here, is telling you that those two guys, the white pope and the black pope, they can be horns of the wicked. And then, of course, we can be, as we can see up here in Hannah, we can be horns of the righteous. So that's what horns mean. When you come across horns in Scripture, that's what it's mean. It's got a parable to it. It's symbolic language. It's describing something. Here in Texas, you see some vehicles with got the big old longhorns on the hood of their car, and it's, again, that's a symbol of strength and power that people do as a symbol on their vehicles and stuff. So again, this is symbolic language. So I just want everybody to kind of key in on the symbology here. So we just covered the horns, and it says 2 here, so everybody knows 1 plus 1. Here's 1 plus this one is 2. So that's pretty simple to figure out. That's not figurative language. That's basically literal, talking about 2. So these 2 guys have power. This guy actually, in my belief, this guy actually holds the power, because the most power, because he's the general, and he's the Jesuit superior general. Now, Pope Francis is the first Jesuit pope, and of course he holds power too, but I believe really ultimately the general control. So if the guys that's been in the military, I've been in the military, the top position, at least in the Air Force, was general. So they ultimately made the military decision from the top. That's where it came from on down from there. Now let's take a look at like a lamb. Look at those words, like and lamb. So here we got, for like, we've got Greek Strong's number 3664. Homoos, it means similar in appearance or character, or like. So keep that in mind as we go back through Revelation 13, where it says like, and we'll key in on that later on in this study. Then you got for lamb, you got Greek Strong's number 721, and it just says here lambkin or lamb. So when you look up lamb or lambkin, if you look it up etymologically, it's going to lead you to lamb right here. So I want you to know, etymologically, if you look up lamb, it does not connect to a 4-legged animal with wool on it and goes by. It has no description of an animal in it except for the human animal. And so here it says lamb is a symbol of the Messiah, which is the Lamb of Elohim. We got here, it's also applied to gentle or innocent person. So, you look at the white and black Pope, and if you didn't know them, if they were just dressed in their just regular jeans and T-shirts walking down the road, them 2 characters would look like they were gentle and innocent people. So let's see here. We got John 2:15. Let's look at some context of verses that talk about lambs, and are they describing a 4-legged animal? John 21:15. I'm sorry. So when they had dined, Yahushua saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, master, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, feed my lambs. So did the Messiah have a herd of lambs as far as 4-legged woolly animals that he was telling Peter to take care of for him and feed them for him? No, he was talking about feed them the good news, feed them the anointing oil, of the word of Yahuwah. That's what they were supposed to be fed, and he's talking about gentle and innocent persons. Especially here it says especially young church members. So Peter was more astute, more higher up in that church assembly. So he was supposed to feed the lesser ones, and that's what he was being told to do. Revelation 12:11, and they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. So here again, and I want to key in on blood here. Again, blood, people are looking at blood literally in Scripture, and we really need to look at it symbolically, because just in this context, just in the verse, it says the blood of the Lamb, and then it says the word of their testimony. So what did the Messiah tell them to drink? I think it's in John 6 where he says, eat my flesh and drink my blood. He wasn't telling them to literally drink his blood or chew into his flesh. He was telling them to drink the word of my testimony. So he brought a testimony. So that blood of the Lamb is the same thing that Peter and the initial disciples started off. That's what they started If you go look up blood in etymology, it means it tied into pagan practices, and sure enough, they started even the Jewish in Israel started literally sacrificing animals and spewing um, blood of animals on altars and everything else, and it's still being done to this day. But it was never intended to be this, and this word got lost in translation. So if you look up blessed in Scripture, it will lead you to blood, and that's what when it said Moses sprinkled the blood on the people. How could Moses sprinkle blood on 600,000 men and then their women and children included? Um, it wasn't talking about it. It was talking about sprinkling blessing, giving them blessings of what Yahuwah was speaking to Moses, and Moses was conveying it to them. Revelation 17:14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is master of masters and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So again, this is not war. They're not going to wage war against literal sheep out there. This is, again, we are the lambs. We are the lambs. Vicar. So the popes have called themselves the vicar of Christ, and so when you look up vicar etymologically, this is what it brings up. It'll say earthly representative of Elohim or of Messiah. And we all know who was the Messiah. He was the Lamb. So they're the earthly representative of the Lamb. So what does Revelation 13:11 say? It says like a lamb. So the popes call themselves the representative of the Lamb. Right there. And then if you look up anti and vicar are basically the same thing. Just look both of them up. And anti doesn't always mean against, although the popes are against the true word of Yahuwah. They're against the true worship of Yahuwah. But anti, you look it up, it can mean as good as, similar, or like. So again, that word like comes into play down here, even with anti. So you got John writing about the Antichrist back in the first century, and then he talks about many antichrists. So anybody that is against the word of Yahuwah, and I'm talking about the word of Yahuwah, that's that word between Genesis, the first letter in Genesis, all the way to Revelation. And anybody that doesn't believe in that, all those words between there, they're kind of being antichrist. They're going against, because my Father above tells me that there's not going to be anything missing from His word. So that means I have it available to me today, and I don't have to. It's not hidden in the Vatican or anything like that. That's just an excuse to me not to study it out further and find the truth. So like a lamb. That's what your white pope and your black pope are. They're the earthly representative of the Lamb here on earth. All right, now let's look at in verse 11 where it says spake as a dragon. So what does spake mean? And then we'll look at dragon. So spake here is Greek Strong's number 2980. It's elo. Means to talk, that is utter words. So to talk, to utter words. So if you look it up, speak, if you go up and look for spake on etymology, it leads you to speak, to the verb speak. So speak means to utter words. Again, there's your utter words there. It means to utter words articulately without singing, have or use the power of speech. So there's that power again, that horn, the horn of speech. Make a speech, hold discourse with others. So if you look at what the papacy does, Pope Francis, you'll see him, and he makes these speeches, and he tells people the way it should be and stuff. So he has a power of speech. I mean, there's millions that bow to him as far as his speeches are, but I think we're going to see through this study that it's more covert than that, than him speaking to the Catholic Church. It goes even further. John 8:44, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So right here, speaks a lie. So that's what the white and black pope do. They speak a lie, and he speaks of his own. So this is not from the Father above. This is opposite. This is another gospel. This is what Paul, and we'll cover this later. This is that other gospel that Paul's saying, hey, you've fallen away from it, the true gospel, so quickly. So there's two different gospels out there that we can take a part of, but you got the one from Satan and you've got the one from the Father above. So we just need to be careful and measure ourselves and see where we're at with everything. And are we partaking part of their lies? Debar is actually Deuteronomy is Dabarim, which it just means an arrangement of words. So that is Hebrew Strong's number 1696. You'll see here it says figuratively of words to speak, rarely in a destructive sense to subdue. So that rarely in a destructive sense to subdue. I wanted to find a couple of verses that talked about in a destructive sense. So here we go. Psalms 58:3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Okay. So it's not talking about when they're physically born. It means they're born into the world as far as when they accept the world as it is. That's when they're born into it. They go into this, it's kind of like the Matrix. You get, you're in there and you don't realize that you're in there until you get, you get out of the Matrix and you go deep dive and you find out, hey, I was in the world. Somebody made a comment to me 22 years ago that changed my life, and I'd never heard it before, and I'd been raised Baptist all my life, and I'd been part of the world, and I was still part of the world for many years after that, but I did come out of the worship of Christmas and Easter, and and I was still doing some other festivals and stuff, not thinking much about it, and Mother's Day and things like that, but for the most part I pulled out of it. And so that's what we're supposed to do when we catch someone in a lie. That's when we need to pull away from them and say not trust them anymore. Once somebody lies to you, you shouldn't trust them anymore at all. So anyway, that's what happens when you get born into the world. You speak lies to others. You don't realize you're speaking lies. Look, if you're told a lie while you're growing up, and you go tell that lie to someone else, even though you think it's true, it's still a lie. So it's the scenario I've always talked about. If I took a child and took him out into the mountains away from all civilization, and I brought that child up and I told him that the color of the sky was green and the color of the grass was blue, when that child grew up, and if he went into the world, he'd go into dispute with others because others would laugh at him because he thought the sky was green and stuff. But because it was a lie told to him, it didn't mean it was the truth, but he believed it anyway because it came from an authority. So we need to make sure which authority we leave our trust into, and my trust is in the authority of the word of Yahuwah. So that's those scriptures that we need to go through, and we need to dig deeper into them. That's what I trust. Then we got Psalms 101:7 here. He that worketh deceit shall not dwell within my house. He that tells lies shall not tarry in my sight. So these are people that probably were there, that they dwelled inside the house. This goes back to that once saved, always saved mentality. No, you're not. Once you're saved, there's conditions to stay inside that house. And he that tells lies. So if you get in the Father's house and then you start getting swayed away by the lies of the world, then he's not going to. It's just like he tells you. He's not going to recognize you. It's like the Messiah says when people run up to him, and we're going to have that verse here in a little bit. But he didn't even know him. at all, you know, as a dragon. This is pretty neat. So, 2.5 years ago, I was more of a literal sense of the black and white of what the scripture said. But wow, I've been on a journey over the last 2.5 years, especially, um, learning that the prophecy I thought was going to happen was that looked like it was in the black and white. It's not in the black and white. It's symbolic language. So let's look at dragon. Is dragon a creature that flies through the air and breathes fire out of its mouth and has scales and horns and stuff like that? And anyway, just an ugly looking creature. So Isaiah 51:9, it says, "Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahuwah. Awake, as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon?" So Rahab was someone that's contemptuous. So what is contemptuous? It's somebody that goes against, that's anti against the word of Yahuwah. That's contemptuous. So that would put your white pope and your black pope in that position. They're contemptuous. So again, Rahab is cut Rahab and then wounded the dragon. So Rahab was a dragon. So this is Isaiah talking to. He's wanting them to think about the Ancient of Days. Go back in Scripture, go back to the ancient times, and that's where we get our truth at. We got to go back in time because that truth gets lost in had gotten lost in translation. Jeremiah 51:37, "And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an astonishment and a hissing without an inhabitant." So here we go. We got Babylon, which is basically symbolically means confusion. Eventually, Babylon's going to fall. Babylon literally fell back, in the days of Jeremiah, and they fell to the Medo-Persian Empire. And if you read Daniel, you'll understand the four beasts from Babylon to the Medo-Persians to the Greeks and then to the Romans. But Babylon will become heaps and a dwelling place for dragons, and it did. So the Romans today, and we'll look at the symbology of what the Romans carry around, but they have the standards in front of their armies are dragons. So they're not people. Dragons are not people. Or I'm sorry, dragons are not a creature. They're literally people or a person. Jeremiah 10:22, "Behold, the noise of the brute is come, and a great commotion out of the north country, to make the cities of Judah desolate in a den of dragons." So again, Judah got desolated. Jeremiah tried to warn them. They didn't submit, and they got captured and went into Babylon captivity for 70 years. And during that time, because Babylon was contemptuous to the word of Yahuwah, it became a den of dragons. Also, Judah was contemptuous to the word of Yahuwah too, so that's why they lost out. Again, they were saved at one time. He had them in his hand, and that John 10 says when you have them in your hand, you're protected. But if you don't keep the conditions that he puts in place, he'll make you desolate. Jeremiah 51:34, "Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled his belly with my delicates. He hath cast me out." So Nebuchadnezzar was a dragon. Job 30:29, "I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls." So this is Job. He's talking about, hey, I'm related. I'm a brother to dragons. So he wasn't talking about a creature. He's talking about people. He was a brother to these dragon type people. Ezekiel 29:3, and those are character. The dragon is a character trait. Okay, "Speak and say, Thus saith Yahuwah, Elohim, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth amid his rivers, which hath said, My river is mine own, and I have made it for myself." So here, the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he's a great dragon. So again, dragons are not these mythological creatures. They're people. Okay. Hebrew Strong's number for dragon is H8577. So this is where I'm saying you can't always trust etymology. You've got to look at other ways, and this is Strong's Concordance. So if you look at this in the black and white, it says a marine or land monster that is a sea serpent or jackal. So dragon, sea monster, serpent, whale. So as you can see here, that's not what it's describing, but these are character traits. So these animals, just like the animals we're supposed to be clean to eat, those are character traits of people that you need to, if they're clean to eat, you need to be around those type of people. If they're unclean, you don't need to be eating the same thing, that from that type of character trait. That's what it comes down to. It never had anything to do with literal animals, what animals to eat. When we look at dragon under Greek, 1404, it's drakon. Um, it means to look, a fabulous kind of serpent, perhaps as supposed to fascinate. So you got the old serpent in the Jungle Book where he takes the little boy and he he basically hypnotizes him with his eyes and stuff. So there, even the Jungle Book, they use a serpent in that way too, and that's what these people are like. They fascinate. They speak fabulous words, and they get people drawn in with their coy words and everything like that. So we've just got to wake up to the way of this world. We've got to understand what Scripture is really trying to tell us, and get there. And then Isaiah writes in 28:10, and this is how we're supposed to study here, guys. We're supposed to take the scriptures here a little, there a little. So here it is: for precept must be upon precept, precept on precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. So you can't get all the truth in just a little portion of the scriptures. You got to go all throughout it. It's like a big, well, it's a riddle. So if you look at what David wrote in Psalm 78:2, it says, I speak in riddles. He also says, I speak in parables. And or I think he says, I speak of riddles of old. So these scriptures are riddles, so we can't just read it in the black and white and take that as what it's talking about. All right, our next slide. Now we're going to get to the no man might buy or sell. So we know what a ban is, okay? So this is saying no man might buy or sell. So again, my question is this talking about literally they're gonna make it to where you're gonna be controlled in what you can buy or what you can sell if you're a merchant and you sell goods? Are they gonna control you what you do? Or is this talking about what you can learn in the word of Yahuwah? Are they preventing you from getting to know the true word? Are they getting you? Are they getting you to not know the true gospel? And I know myself for many years. I mean, I'm be 61 here next month, and I know for majority of my life, I was buying and selling from the world. And they're spiritual, what they were selling spiritually. And if you think of the serpent and the dragon, they're selling snake oil. So again, we'll cover the scriptures about the 10 virgins. What did the virgins? They brought oil. So you can bring the precious oil of the word of Yahuwah, or you can bring snake oil that these sinister ministers are out there doing. And it's not just the white and black pope. They're the top echelon, and then they pull the puppet strings of everybody else below it, and they even control the seminary colleges and everything else and what they teach there. So anybody that's been to seminary, please just stop right now and try to erase what you've been taught, and then go into the scriptures and let the Father above talk to you. But you have to do the research. You have to dig deep, and that's the only way you're going to find the truth, is you're going to have to dig deep. Or you're going to have to find somebody that you can study with that digs deep, and you can dig. They can dig deep with you. So no man might buy or sell. So let's take a look at it. So buy is Greek Strong's number 59. It's agorazo, agorazo. There we go. It means to go to market, to purchase, specifically to redeem. So I want to look up redeem etymologically, see what it meant. It means to deliver from sin or spiritual death. So Are there some out there selling us a false redemption? Sure, sure. Look at your huge mega churches and their leaders. Are they selling the true word of Yahuwah, or are they selling a false redemption? So they're saying we're showing you the things to deliver you from sin and spiritual death, but is that really what they're selling? Uh, it's a false sense of redemption there. So we look at the Greek Strong's number here for sale, and we got it's actually polio. I wonder if that's like connected to polio. But anyway, I didn't look it up to see, but polio, to be busy, to trade, to barter as a peddler, to sell. So to be busy, to trade, to barter as a peddler, to sell. And if I look it up etymologically, here's what I got from it. I got to give something to someone, furnish, supply, lend, surrender, give up, deliver to, and promise. So we're gonna look at barter here in a little bit, but look again here at sell. To give something to someone, furnish, supply, lend, surrender, give up, deliver to, or promise. So when you go out there, if you're speaking something which I've done before, I've been guilty and had to repent and humble myself. But I've sold false goods before from the scriptures myself because I didn't understand the scriptures. I just had to dig deeper, and I'm the type of person I actually got mad at myself. And usually, I've been in business for many years, and usually if I got in a bad sense in business, I would get mad at myself, and then once I got mad at myself, I would get the drive to fix what I'd got myself into. And so anyway, so we just got to be careful what we're buying and selling. So if we look here at the parable of the hidden treasure, this is something we want to buy and sell. And this is the Messiah talking, Matthew 13:44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a treasure hid in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hides, and for joy thereof goeth and sells all that he hath and buys that field. So yeah, you definitely want to buy that treasure. And what is that treasure? I believe that treasure is the word of Elohim. Okay, the word of Yahuwah. The parable of the 10 virgins. You got Matthew 25:9. I didn't list them all here. I just didn't have enough slide space, but Matthew 25:9. Go read this in context with the other verses. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather them that sell and buy for yourselves. So this was 10 virgins. 5 actually had their oil. They had the word of Yahuwah. And then the other ones had no oil. They had no oil at all. So when the bridegroom, the Messiah, was arriving and showing up, the wise trimmed their lamps, and the other ones tried to buy some oil off of them. And they said, no, we can't, we might not have enough, so you go buy and sell. Well, at that point in time, the virgins were already going to meet the bridegroom. It was too late. So what were they going to do? They were going to buy that snake oil from the false word that is being sold in this world today. And so when they went and bought that oil, the ones that sold it to them, when they went to the Messiah, just again, go back and look at this, but the Messiah said, get away from me, I never knew you. So it's because the reason they didn't ever know him, they didn't get into his word. That's the only way we're going to get to know him, and that's the only way he's going to get to know us, is by us having a sign between you and him. That's what it comes down, and the Messiah is the word. That's who I understand the word is, and from John 1 and many other places, he's called the word. So he's the word of the Father. He was a spoken word, and he came in the flesh. Our next slide, no man might buy or sell. So let's look at the bad things that they were buying and selling. Matthew 21:12. And Yahushua went into the temple of Elohim and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. I just did this study on like a dove, so and covered these verses here. Mark 11:15. And they come to Jerusalem, and Yeshua went into the temple and began to cast them out them that sold and bought in the temple and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. Then we got Luke 19:45, and he went into the temple and began to cast out them that sowed therein and them that bought. So this was on the 10th day of the first month. I believe was in year AD 30. So these three verses are talking about the same thing. But what was these guys? What were these temple, the ones running the temple doing? They were selling a false word. And I believe at that time they still literally thought they were supposed to kill animals. So I believe these, and you notice that the Messiah chased the animals away too. So and he didn't just, it wasn't just the ones that were in there. He chased the animals away. So this was a false sense of worship. So, and he told them, he said, this is a house of prayer. This is not a house of merchandise. So again, we go back to merchandise. They were selling a false sense of worship to the Father above. So we got to be careful there. They were doing it then, they're doing it now. Luke 17:28, likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. Okay, so here in the days of Kevin and Tanya, we're eating, we're literally eating, we're drinking. We just bought I bought some things earlier today. We went out yesterday and shopped at Home Depot, bought some things there. I sewed. Actually went out and sewed some things by doing bids and stuff, and then I actually do service work and sell product out there. So I sell, and then we do gardens. So we planted gardens. Tanya more than me this year. Thank you, Tanya. And they built. So we built things around here too. So is that what it's talking about? No, it's talking about what they're eating. They're eating a false gospel. They're drinking a false gospel. They're buying a false gospel. They're also turning around once they buy it and they're selling it to others, a false gospel. They're planting the seeds of a false gospel, and they're building up these things in a false gospel. So this is what you got, guys. This is what it's talking about. It's not talking about literally eating and drinking food and all these other little things. It's symbolic language. No, so here's that barter, the verse, and check this out. The first one that pulls up etymology says to traffic or trade by exchanging one commodity for another. Okay, so I get that. So how we trade to gain redemption from the Father above, we buy the word of Yahuwah, and we sell it to others. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not only the seeds planted in us, but then we're supposed to take what grows from us, our fruits, and take those fruits and sell them to others and stuff. So that's the word of Elohim. But then it says to barter, cheat, deceive, haggle, also to have sexual intercourse. So guys, if you've never got into etymology, you're going to find out a lot of different things about the history of words. I did. I'm thankful for the individual that introduced me to etymology. I've learned so much from it. Anyway, I'm so thankful for all the people that I've studied with over the last many years. Each and every one of them had a different gift that Yahuwah placed on them, that I was able to take that gift and do something with it there. So thank you guys out there. If you're watching this video, I'm appreciating. Thank you especially to Yahuwah. Praise to you. Hallelujah. All right, so Luke 22:36, it says, then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip, and that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. So anyway, what they're talking, again, this is not talking about a literal sword. This is talking about the word of Yahuwah. That's what the sword is. So to sell your garment, that just means basically what you've gained in the word, you symbolically sell that garment. The garment is the word of Yahuwah is your covering. So you sell that and you buy a sword, which is the two-edged sword that, as you see in these scriptures, they're symbolic language here below. Ephesians 6:17. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. So there we go. It's the sword of the Spirit is the word of Elohim. Hebrews 4:12, for the word of Elohim is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and the intents of the heart. Isaiah, again, go back. This is talking about the word of Yahuwah. This sword is sharper than an actual sword. So if you're thinking that was an actual sword in Scripture, it's not. It's talking about the word of Yahuwah. Isaiah 55:1. Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat. Ye come buy wine and milk without money and without price. So here, this again, this is the word of Yahuwah. This is the living waters. This is the wine and the milk that we're supposed to buy, and we're supposed to buy it without price. So that's that unconditional love that we don't have to get in to the house. We don't have to pay anything to get into the house. It's just conditional after that. And so we just got to keep on buying the same things once we're in there. We can't start buying the world's lies and such. Hebrew Strong's number 7666. Don't get freaked out there. But anyway, it's just a number. Shabar means equal to deal in grain, buy and sell. So the Hebrew word shabar actually covers both buy and sell. So it just means to deal in grain. And what is the grain? The word of Elohim. That's what the grain is. Second base. So I wanted to talk a little bit here about Ignatius of Loyola. He's the founder of the Society of Jesus in 1540. So this is a statue of him. I think this is at St. Peter's Cathedral or Basilica maybe. Anyway, it's a statue. If you look here, he's got his foot on top of someone. If you really look at the Jesuit order and what this guy founded that Jesuit order, and I'm telling you, that's some sick individuals there. But this was a saint. This was a set apart one that he was stomping down on. This was the word of Elohim. This is what millions and millions of believers died for the word of Elohim, and they were killed in a sense back in this time period up to about the 18th century. They killed a lot of believers just for owning a Bible. I want you to look at something here too, a smiling dragon. So I got a circle around them here, but you can't really tell it's a dragon until you pull it up a close view. So I did the same thing here. There you go. That's a dragon. That's the face of a dragon. So it's got a serpent's body, but it's a dragon. So all the Romans on their standards, they carried a dragon in front of their armies, and this was the militant side. This is why they got a general. This was the original general. This is why they got a Jesuit superior general, because they're an army, and they're an army to this day. It's just they're operating in the sense in instead of punishing people physically for buying and selling the true word of Elohim, they're selling another word that's a false word, and they've got the world they've got the world stupefied in it right now. This is a symbol for the Society of Jesus here. Look at that cross. That cross is out of looks like spikes themselves, but that's all false pagan worship there. There's rays of the sun. That's their heliocentric. That's why they worship on Sunday. This is their symbol for the sun here. Interesting note: 1540 was when the Jesuit order was founded. In 1535. I believe the Coverdale was the first printed English Bible. I know the first Bible came out in the 15th century, less than 100 years before this one, but this was the first English one. And so there was a lot of people. William Tyndale, he died for translating the original Hebrew and Greek over into the English. In fact, he learned 6 different languages from what I learned when I studied about him. But he lost his life. They strangled him and then burned him at the stake. The first man printed into the Old English, not printed a Bible, but where he wrote it on, you know, I don't think it was scrolls, but they didn't have a printing press, but they could still write books back then. And if you look at they called him the bright morning, or the morning star, and that was John Wycliffe. So go check out. They got a couple of movies on John Wycliffe and William Tyndale. Tanya and I watched them. It really gives you a sense of what these guys, they really did. They had power and courage in themselves, and that, and maybe they didn't have the full word of Elohim, and none of us do. None of us have the full word of Elohim. So that's why it's we've got to study them. Daily. We got to be in them daily, and if we're not able to be in them daily as much as we can be, and if we miss a day, we need to make up for it the next day. We need to get it taken care of, because I feel an emptiness when I don't get as much study in as I should, and sometimes it's my own fault. But anyway, we'll get off that. But that's your founder. That's your original general there, and they're a militant group, and all the military of Rome carried a dragon. So that's why the dragon was smiling here, because they were stomping on a believer carrying a Bible. All right, we got Revelation 13:11. So I'm going to try to break down a few of the words here, or several of the words here. And it says, and I beheld another beast. So that beast, those beasts they're talking, again, it's people. It's talking about a group of people. And if you look at Daniel, you look at Babylon was the first beast. It was like a lion, and then you had the Medo-Persians, and I believe the Medo-Persians was like a bear, and then you had the Greeks was like a leopard, and then of course you had Rome, which was like a iron or something. Again, see, I need to go back and research, but anyway, it's talking about they controlled the world at the time. They controlled the world, and a lot of what was put out. Remember Nebuchadnezzar? He tried to get everybody to bow down to him, and Daniel and his three other cohorts wouldn't bow down to him. So that's the beast it was talking about there. So that beast come up out of the earth. So earth is also can be people. So when we look up earth, if you look up that word, you can see that it's for a region, and it means the people of that region. So the second beast, basically, that first beast was the papacy from 538 to 1798, which 1260 years, just like the prophecy said. The 1260 day prophecy is actually a year for a day from Ezekiel 4:6. But anyway, that's where that beast, that's the Jesuit order, came out of that order, or out of that first papacy. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So again, I'm saying that's the white and black pope. And again, they speak like a dragon. They don't speak the true word of Yahuwah. They speak as, they're like snake oil salesmen. But they're not going to do things in a sense that people think they are, literally in a physical way. They're doing it in a physical way of spreading a false gospel, or announcement of the good news. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship. Okay, the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So if we look back to worship, that means to fawn. Etymology, if you look up fawn, it means rejoice, be glad, exult, applaud. So if you look at the world, especially when the Pope comes out, they all deal, but they all rejoice, and they're glad, and they applaud, and make a big to-do. And then you got these major mega churches out there, and even some of your smaller churches that might not be considered mega churches, man, they rejoice, and they exalt, and they applaud their leaders and stuff, and their preachers and stuff. And it's just, again, they put their don't put your trust in their authority there. So, and the deadly wound that was healed, that was the wound where in the fifth bowl it got poured out on the sea of the beast. Well, the papacy fell in 1798. So that the new beast is a different papacy. So this new beast is controlled by the Jesuit order. And there's a good book out there that I've read. It's I think it's called Revelation Timeline Decoded by David Wilcoxon. Again, it's a good book. David has done a lot of research on others that have done historical narratives on it, and he has just transferred a lot of their narratives over into a book, and it just put it all in one source. And it's a really easy to read book, and it's really to go research it out and find that it's actually true there. What he is, what they did back in the day. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So he's got great wonder. He's making fire. So what type of fire is he talking about? So there's different types of fire. There's the word of Yahuwah. So here we go. It says, "Is not my word like as a fire?" And this is Yahuwah questioning. He's talking to Jeremiah. He's questioning that. He says, "Is not my word like a fire?" Jeremiah 23:29. Go look that up. So the word of Yahuwah is a fire, but there's also another fire, and this is the fire that was the two priests. I think they were Aaron's sons. They offered back in Leviticus. Let's look at it. It said offered strange fire before Yahuwah. So Leviticus 10:1. So I know my last name is Strange. That doesn't mean I'm offering strange fire. But anyway. But they offered strange fire, and it's just like this world is accepting. They're not accepting the fire from Yahuwah. They're accepting the strange fire from these false leaders, these false authorities. Heaven, if you look up heaven doesn't always mean what you think it means. And like I used to think, I thought heaven was just everything above us. I did go through a period, I thought, well, heaven is the air that we breathe in, and then the other heaven is the stars and lights that we see above. But in the spiritual sense of the heaven, this heaven there can be a heaven of wicked men. Okay, so it's an ideal of elevation of power. So wicked men have elevated themselves. If anybody is off into they've turned off the TV and they've started researching the elite of the world and things like that, you'll see they've elevated themselves into these powerful structures, and so they are also seen as heaven. And deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So we'll take a look at these words. Deceives. Okay, well, that's going on. That's what's going on in the world. There's a lot of deception going on. That's why it's called Babylon. There's confusion. People are confused because they're being deceived. Them that dwell on earth. Okay, got to look at this in the world sense. So dwell. Where do you dwell? Do you dwell in this world? Okay, because that's what earth can mean. It can mean world. Do you dwell in this world, or do you try to dwell in the house of Yahuwah? I try to stay in the house of Yahuwah, so I don't try to dwell in the world. And so this is what it's taught. He's deceiving the ones that are part of the world. That's who's getting deceived. The ones that are in the house of Yahuwah, they're not getting deceived at all. Or they can be deceived, but if they stay in the word of Yahuwah, they won't be deceived. It says here by the means of those miracles. So if we look up that, it says an indication of this is the Strong's definition, an indication, especially ceremonially or supernaturally, belonging to this is etymologically belonging to a religious ritual. So what is a religious ritual? Well, Saturday worship, Sunday worship, Friday worship, any worship that goes based off the Gregorian calendar, that's a ceremonial religious ritual that people do. So that's what miracles can be. Same thing with people that worship the Messiah on Christmas. That's the false Messiah. That's not the true Messiah. The true Messiah was not born. They're worshiping. They don't know it, but they're serving another. They're basically serving men, because there's the other the entities out there that are made of statues. They have no power at all. But so do the men ultimately to be able to go through them to gain your redemption. If you go through them, you're going to get your false redemption at that point in time. But that power, here's that power again where it talks about the horns. Remember, he had power in the side of the beast. So there's that horn saying to them that dwell on the earth. So again, it's talking about saying to them that dwell in the world. So there's a scripture that says, "Don't be lovers of the world." And that's, if you're not lovers of the world, then you're out of Babylon, and or you're coming out of Babylon, and that they should make an image. So again, I said earlier, let's remember, let's make a reminder, a likeness. So it goes back to that similar, like a lamb, which he had a likeness to the beast. So even the beast before that, the first beast, the papacy, the papacy today, which is controlled by the Jesuits, they look like that original beast, except the only thing is they're not killing people literally for buying and selling the true worship of Yahuwah. They're doing it deceptively. They're deceiving like this: deception, deceive. We look here, which had the wound by a sword. If you look up that sword, it could also mean figuratively war. So that sword that the first papacy died with was a war. And if you go look it up, it was basically it was Napoleon and the French, and they made a war against Tuscany, I believe is the name in Rome. But they waged war against it, and they took the Pope captive in 1798, and that was that fifth bowl being poured out on the seat of the beast. And basically, the Jesuits probably had a lot to do with that because they had animosity toward the papacy at the time because the papacy kicked them out of a lot of countries. But anyway, I won't digress. I'll get back on here. But anyway, that's what that sword is. That's how he died, by the sword. It's through the war that the French waged on Tuscany and Rome. And it says he did live. Well, that actual Pope actually died, but it's talking about he did live in the image. So the image became what the Jesuits order put into place. They wanted to make it identical to the first papacy, except they wanted to come with a different way of deceiving people, or to getting them to worship in the wrong way. And he had power to give. Okay, there goes those horns. Power and give are also the same meaning of power. Life unto the image of the beast. So the likeness of the beast, that the likeness of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the likeness of the beast should be killed. So if we look here, it killed figuratively to destroy. So it doesn't mean they're actually killed. It means to destroy them in the sense that they're not going to gain their redemption. They're not going to know the Father above. They're not going to know the Messiah, the Word of Yahuwah. They're not, they're going to be destroyed by that. What's Hosea 4:6 says, "My people shall be destroyed for lack of knowledge." So if you look at that, that's exactly as what happened throughout history, and we're really at a bad portion, in this day and age of what we're seeing going on and stuff. But figuratively destroy. Also, if we look at it, etymology, it means to overthrow, lay waste, or ruin. So basically, if you can take somebody that believes a certain way and then do some deceptive things like Constantine did back in the 4th century, he meshed the pagan worship together with the true worship of you, and meshed them together and then binded them together, and that's why they took the first festivals, the Passover, unleavened bread, and the real quick morning of first fruits, and they made it into Good Friday and Easter. And again, they said, it's another false sense of worship. So that's how you can destroy somebody. You don't have to kill them physically. You can kill them without. And that's same thing with, if you go back in the original covenant and you read them stories where Yahuwah told his people that he gave them a command, "Thou shalt not kill," but yet later on he told them to go in and kill all the men and women. It was talking about destroy them from their false sense of worship. and teach them the true sense of worship. That's how you would destroy them in what they were doing at that point. Verse 16, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. So I've had that mark at one time in my life because I was part of the world. I was part of the world, and I started slowly coming out, 21 years ago or 22 years ago, and I'm still, I'm still working on coming completely out. But anyway, if we've got that mark, we've got to get rid of that mark. And that mark is not a physical mark. It's symbolic of what we do, the works that we do, and the thoughts that we have in our head. So if you think Christmas is salvation and you're doing a lot of things during Christmas, you're going out and feeding the poor and stuff like that, which that's good. That's good to feed the poor. But if you think that's what's gaining your salvation, it's not. That's not what gaining your salvation. The only way you're going to gain your salvation is to believe in the word of Yahuwah. And the only way to believe in the word of Yahuwah is to go in there and study it and learn it. Because I can tell you, when you first start reading it, it can throw you off. But as you just keep it up, and he's gonna start working with you as he sees you're diligent. And so that's the right hand. I want the mark of Yahuwah. I want that sign. I want that sign between me and him, that mark. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So, name, if you look it up, guys, it can mean literally or figuratively authority or character. So, you can figuratively have a character, a name of the beast. So, what's the character? What is character trait? So does papacy celebrate Christmas? Absolutely. Do they propagate Christmas? You bet they do. So that's the mark of the beast right there. Does a papacy say, worship on Sunday, and a lot of others worship on, most of Christianity worships on Sunday, and then there's others that worship on Saturday, which is, again, it's on their calendar. It's on their calendar. It's on the beast calendar. Saturday and Sunday, it's on the beast calendar. It never did line up with Yahuwah's calendar, because the lights above will never cycle on a 7-day recycling all throughout history. You've got to start the cycle to the Sabbath differently. But anyway, this is save he that had the mark or the name. Again, don't take the character of the beast or the number. So number means it's reckoned up. Etymologically means sum, aggregate of a collection. So the number just means a collection of all the things that come out of this beast, of his character. That's the number there. Here's wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast. Okay? So we got to reckon up. We got to sum up what the number of the beast is, and for it's the number of a man. So it's not a creature. It's a man. It's a man. It's not a half man or anything like it. It's a man. It's a man. It's mankind. Altogether, it's the world. That's the number of M altogether, and his number is 600 So there's a lot of things that add up to 666. I remember computer. If you do computer, every third letter, it'll add up to 666. And and I believe there's a lot of things that they intentionally wanted to add up to 666, and that's why you see a lot of the symbolism of the 666 and stuff today, because they don't worship the true worship. They worship the way of the adversary, the way of Satan. And again, Satan is a spirit, so they have the spirit of Satan in them, so that's why they worship in that way. So again, I've been in that world before. I remember what it's like. I'm disgusted, that I did some of the things that I did, but yet now I feel relieved. I feel that Yahuwah has forgiven me for anything that I did back then, and he's welcomed me into his house. So the other gospel, no other gospel. So this is Paul writing here, Galatians 1:6-10. I marvel that ye are soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Mashiach. That's the Messiah, unto another gospel. So here, these are Galatians. This is the first letter. This is only 6 verses into his letter to the Galatians. And if you study up on the Galatians, you'll see that they did a lot of pagan worship. You know, and anyway, but a lot of them came out and and started keeping the gospel. But then Paul's talking about they got into another gospel. So this is how the spirits of Satan work. They try to confuse everything. And it says, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Mashiach, Messiah. But though we or an angel from heaven preach to any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. As we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men or Elohim, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Mashiach. So we'll go back over these words here, and we'll look over here at the grace. If you look up grace, this in the Strong's, it means the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life. So that's if he called you into that and you got influenced, divine influenced upon your heart, and it's your reflection in the life. I mean, wow, that's what that grace is. I know it's, grace is connected to gratia, which you can look it up. And again, I used to be that type of person. I would let that prevent me from speaking words that some people couldn't understand. So if I'm going to speak to someone, if I say grace, they might understand what grace. But I tell you the truth, I didn't know what most of these words meant anyway. So until I started searching them out, and then if we look at gospel here, gospel just means a good message. So Yahuwah's word is a good message, but there's people out there that believe that the papacy's word is a good message. They believe that the mega churches ministers are saying a good message. So it's a false gospel. So there's a true gospel and there's false gospel. So which one are you going to buy and sell? I'm going to choose to do the message from Yahuwah. And it says, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you. So trouble, to stir, agitate. So again, I remember when I first started coming into the belief, people will really attack you. I got attacked physically, in a sense that I had a knockdown, drag out fight with my brother, to the point of blood. And anyway, when I first started changing from the way we were raised, I mean, he couldn't stand it. So I love him to death, and we still talk to this day. But he's more of accepting of the authority of this world, and I'm not. So, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel. So pervert means to corrupt. Again, gospel, pervert the good message. So again, that's what they've done. If you look at the all roads lead to Rome, guys. So if you go back to Rome, that's where it's been perverted back then. And I think if you go back, Rome goes all the way back to Babylon. In fact, Rome probably goes all the way back to Egypt, because Egypt probably was one of the first ones. I know Nimrod built Babylon, but Egypt was another one. Was a strong empire at one time too. So it's up to the Antichrist or the anti-Messiah to pervert the gospel, and that's what they do. These are people, these are spirits, spirits in people. I'm not saying these people wasn't born with these bad spirits. It's just through their lives, they chose a certain direction to go. And if they chose the way away from Yahuwah, this is where they got these demon spirits inside of them, and cause them to pervert the gospel. They get blinded. But though we are an angel from heaven, preach any. But though we are an angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be. So, has anybody had an angel from heaven preach a gospel to them, or a different gospel to them? If most people think of angels as a two-winged man-looking creature. And stuff. Anyway, if you look up angel, it's Greek Strong's number 32. Just do it for yourself. Look, it's a pastor. It's a messenger. It's a messenger. It's somebody that carries a message. So you can either carry the message of the word of Yahuwah, or you can carry the message of a snake oil salesman that comes straight out of Rome. So in this heaven, again, heaven through the ideal of elevation, specifically the gospel. So there's one heaven, the gospel, the good message, and then the other heaven is that where Rome has elevated themselves as the vicar, the earthly representative of the word of Yahuwah. They've elevated themselves to that position. Okay, so that's where they're talking. They're that angel from heaven. It's not talking about a two-winged creature. They're the they're the beast that's done that. Let him be accursed, banned, or excommunicated. So Paul's basically saying, if somebody's bringing something that's different from the word of Yahuwah, ban them, excommunicate them. Don't study with them. Don't be a part. Love them, but don't love their ways and stuff. And just keep on speaking the truth to them, and maybe eventually, it'll catch on. It's like I do to some people that go against me all the time. I keep on trying to speak in love and stuff. Like I've been going to the Sunday school church. I'm sure some of them wanting to ban and excommunicate me right now there at that Sunday school class. But anyway, verse 9, as we said before, so say now again, if any man preach any other gospel. So there again, to preach any other gospel, any other message than what we have brought you, unto you then ye have received, let him be accursed. So again, Paul's reiterating a second time. I mean, he's really 2 verses in a row, and he's talking about this gospel 3 different times in quotes here. And then he's talking about ban them, get them out of there, don't study with them. For do I now persuade to convince by argument, but do I now persuade? If we look at persuade, I just put it here. I ran out of room over here. It means to convince by argument, true or false. So again, to persuade somebody to do something, you can do that in truth, or you can do it in falsehood or a lie. So, for do I now persuade men or Elohim? So this, Paul was saying, what I'm doing, I'm trying to persuade men in a true way. Okay? He says, or Elohim here. Of course, in a sense, he's trying to persuade Elohim in the way he wants Elohim to see him in a good sense. So, of course, that could be seen as persuade, to convince by argument, true or false. So, of course, if you try to convince Yahuwah, hey, I'm on the right track, that's what you do. You do what Paul did. Then he says, or do I seek to please men? Please to be agreeable. So he's saying, Paul didn't agree with men, and it's just like we're not supposed to be agreeable to mankind. We're supposed to try to persuade them, not to try to please them. And I know so many of us do. I know some. I've actually, Tanya was telling me a story yesterday that Denise knows a lady that at the grocery store, she keeps both the festivals of the scriptures, and then she also keeps the other festivals of the world. So she tries to please men, and a lot of people, they'll even go to a Christmas party. Well, I don't want to upset them or anything. And I'm gonna tell you, guys, when it comes down to my redemption, I don't care if you're mad. I don't care if you're fighting mad. I don't care if you attack me physically. I'm not here to please you. Okay. Um, if you're part of the world, it's not my part. For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Mashiach. So there again. So if I yet am agreeable with mankind, then I should not be a servant of Mashiach, and none of us should if we're agreeable to this world. So this next slide here, I just wanted to show some things that are another gospel. Here's one. This is a Janus. This is where the New Year Day, January. This is where January comes. The two-headed god here called Janus. So there's people worship there. Here's one. This is actually a drawing of the Messiah, and it looks like Mary here, and this is his day that he's supposed to get circumcised. So this is a worship in Christendom, I believe, however you say that, in some of the Christian sect, I guess you'd say. But they worship on New Year's Day. They actually worship the day that the Messiah was circumcised. But the Messiah was not born on December the 25th. If anything, it was this guy right here that they used to worship, and they called him Mithras. And as you can see, you got the solar rays, and if you look at the Statue of Liberty, again, Statue of Liberty, you got the solar rays. You also look at a statue of Apollo. Apollo has the sun rays, so they're all connected, no matter what. You got Mother's Day here. This is the goddess Gaia. I think they call her Mother Earth. So this is where Mother's Day anciently came from. Again, I ain't not making this stuff up. I actually went and searched Google with it. Valentine's Day here, you got a two-winged character here. That again, there's a lot of Christians, a lot of people that say they're believers in the word of Yahuwah, but they celebrate Valentine's Day, so they're trying to please men. Here's St. Patrick's Day. This is a he's wearing the Dagon fish god hat there on top of his head, but anyway, this is St. Patrick, and you can see he's got the four-leaf clover for luck. So they believe in luck. Okay. Easter, here's a painting of a couple of children. They're opening up a big old egg, and it's got bunny rabbits in. So Easter is all connected to fertility worship. That's why the bunnies are a part of it, and the eggs are. You got Santa Claus and his reindeer. Well, you got a Greek god back in the day. I forget the name of him here, but he's on a chariot, and he's got winged, looks like Pegasus type beast here, winged horses. And anyway, you got Christmas comes from there. Then you got Halloween, which is again Rome when they conquered the Celts. If you look it up, Celts used to practice this tradition on the end of October. They called it All Hallows Eve. And a lot of the traditions they did back then, they do today. They bob for apples and stuff like that. That's one of the traditions the Celts used to do. They used to dress up in costumes and stuff. And then the Romans had a day that they called it All Saints Day, where it would be, it's basically the Day of the Dead. And they did that on November the 1st. So to merge them together, when they conquered the Celts and brought the Celts in, they didn't want to make the Celts mad, and so they said, "Hey, we'll take one of your festivals and we'll blend it in with one of our, and we'll all be good. Okay, we'll be good. We'll blend it all together and everything be good." So that's what they did. And then we got the Babylon here, and you got tree worship. Okay, so again on Christmas you got tree worship. You know, what's the sense of putting a tree up in your house? Man, I used to be the biggest Santa Claus there was. I tell this story all the time. There was no bigger Santa Claus than I was in my mind. It was a competition for me to have the biggest tree, the most amount of lights and everything else, but it's all Babylonian tradition there. And then, of course, we've got this spin. We got this, and this comes straight out of the Jesuits. The Jesuits teach this. This is what they try to control. They want to control even the true shape of the earth, where there's not one place out of everything that I've investigated, and I've done a lot of investigating, I have not seen one place where I've seen any large body of water have curve to it. And if something can disappear at that's 6 foot tall at 3 miles away, then I should definitely be able to see a curve on a horizon. If something can disappear after 3 miles, it's only 6 foot high. So again, these are all deception. This is the other gospel that I've all bought into that. I've celebrated every one of these. Every one of these. Then, of course, we got their calendar. This is, they took the Julian calendar and then the Gregorian calendar. When they changed from Julian over to Gregorian, they lost like 11 days there. And some say it was September, some others say October. It doesn't matter. That's when they started, well, they started their Sunday worship before this. So this, again, they changed to 7 days, I believe, back in the first century, when Rome used to have an 8-day week, and then before that, I think they had a 10-day week. So Rome is basically, they've absorbed a lot of people. So when they conquered the kingdom of Judah, the kingdom of Judah, guess what? They kept 7-day weeks. Well, at the time they were keeping 7-day recycling weeks according to the moon. They'd keep a new moon day and stuff, but then the Rome came in and they just kind of made that worship. So you got Friday worship, you got the Muslims do that, then you got Good Friday worship that they do that, then you got Sunday worship, then you got Saturday worship. So all these days are based off of Rome. So anything that is Rome, connected to Rome, if you're doing anything that's connected to Rome, my warning to you is you're probably accepting that other gospel. And you need to get in there and accept the good message from the word of Yahuwah. So anyway, just go back and look at these scriptures. I'm already set in my mind that no man might buy or sell. It's not talking about literal. Now, guys, it's good to have plenty of supplies of food and water and some propane and ways to cook or whatever, for any type of disaster that's, especially most of our disasters are man-made nowadays. But that's another study in itself. But anyway, we just need to stay on the what the true buying and selling. What are you truly going to buy and sell? Are you going to buy that treasure that you found in the field? That's likened to the kingdom of heaven. That's what I want to buy and sell, and that's what the Rome and all the minions underneath Rome are trying to prevent you from buying. They're trying to prevent you from buying. They will only let you buy their stuff, and they're trying to keep you. And that's why they went into the seminaries and everything else and took over them. John D. Rockefeller. Over the last 100 to 150 years, the Jesuits have really, especially America, they've really taken over America. So you had letters between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams back in the day, and they were talking about how to try to keep this Jesuit order out of the United States that was trying to get clinch a hold in it. And guess what? Them two ex-presidents died on the same exact day. They died exactly 50 years to the day they signed the Declaration of Independence on July the 4th, 1826. So they died exactly 50 years after they signed that, and that's how mean the Jesuits are. If you ever get a chance, look at the Jesuit oath. It's pretty gruesome when you read it. But anyway, look, I know that some of y'all might get something out of this. I know others might not. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. But again, the guys that's giving me a thumbs down, y'all haven't done it yet, but make a comment. Give me a comment. Just let me know what you disagree with. Also, if you do like this video, share it with somebody else where they can take a look at it, because I really do. If I look at the symbology of language, which I'm almost sure that most of the scripture is symbolic. I know there's some literal things that happen scripturally that had to happen, but there's most of the language is symbolic. So it can be symbolic and then be referring to an actual event happening. But as far as no man might buy or sell, what they're trying to keep them from keep you from buying and selling is the true word of the Father above, and that's our Messiah. That's the one that was anointed with the anointed oil from the Father above. And don't buy the snake oil, guys. Buy the true oil from Yahuwah. Everybody have a great evening. I'll try to get this out here in a few minutes. And love everyone. And let's give praise to Yahuwah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah indeed.